In this episode, we catch up with Andrew O'Loughlin, the Managing Director of Limelight Sports in Melbourne, Australia. Limelight Sports are a major company, an international player. They're based in Melbourne, also Dubai and London, looking to take things even bigger and better into the future. The company are essentially a sports engagement agency. They work with brands to create and deliver memorable experiences for their customers. They're doing very, very big things. Andrew himself is a very well-travelled individual. He's worked with some very reputable international sporting organisations. So it's a very fascinating chat. If you'd like to contact Andrew, we'll leave you some details towards the back end. But for now, sit back, enjoy, and we'll get straight into it. Well, Andrew, great of you to join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great to talk to you.
Now, what exactly goes on in these Limelight Sports offices here in South Melbourne? I mean, there are bicycles on the walls, there are darts boards, there are things everywhere here. What exactly goes on?
We certainly like to practice what we preach, and we talk a lot about the active world in our work. But we certainly live it day to day. As you can see, the guys and girls here are very passionate about being active in sport, and we certainly do our best to try and encourage it and practice what we preach. So hopefully you've taken some motivation as well from it.
Early stage.
Adrian was actually working on the kettlebell.
Good.
While waiting for it.
Now, you're the managing director of the operation here.
Right.
What exactly does that mean in terms of the team you have, and how do you get to be the managing director of an organisation like this?
Like a lot of things in life, I suppose it's a semi-planned pathway, and a lot of things have come about by chance. But I guess my role is to help build the team and look after our clients and make sure that we're offering new and exciting things to our clients and to our audiences. But I guess the short version of events on my path to managing director is studied sport and commerce and had a variety of roles in the sort of events and entertainment worlds and sporting worlds. Worked with Limelight in the UK, so the company's been in the UK for almost 30 years now. Came back to Melbourne and worked on a few major events, and then we established Limelight here in Australia about 7 years ago. So we've myself and a couple of other people established the company here, and we've grown to the team that we have today. So that's the short version of how we got here.
Did it start in the UK doing pretty much the same thing that it's doing now, or has it changed a bit over there?
Yeah, it's a good question. It started as we are now, and we're very much focused on, as I say, the active world, that recreational level of sport. We've certainly been involved in different parts of sport, whether that's the elite level or the different aspects of sport, from PR through to broadcast, through to different areas of sport, representing athletes, and we still do. We offer all of those sort of services or elements in our campaigns these days, but we have very much retained that core focus on the active world and that that recreational grassroots level of sport. Yeah. So many evolutions of the company, but we've certainly found our sweet spot, and we're very focused on that now.
And if somebody were to come on the street and say, this is the Limelight office, what do they do here? What would you say in the quick pitch? Yeah,
look, we basically create what we call real life campaigns for people to be active in sport. We work with brands, all sorts of organisations to connect them to their audiences, to connect them to the communities that they want to engage with through that sporting platform. So typically mass participation events, but a lot of campaigns and programs that aren't one-off events. They might involve 15 people through to 15,000 people. Yeah.
Now, sport, physical activity, they seem to be a common theme through most things you've done throughout your career or your experiences. How and why did this come about? Is it something that you've just always been raised with? And I know we're certainly big sport nuts, and everything we do tends to revolve around it. Is a similar case with you?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think there's a few of us around, isn't there? And I think I certainly made a decision myself early in my studies, I guess, that I wanted to work in sport, and it was something I was really passionate about, and something that I wanted to play a big part of my life. And guess I've been fortunate that the sporting industry has offered opportunities, but also developed so immensely over it's about 25 years now. So yeah, absolutely, it's been something that I've wanted to be involved with and very passionate about. So it's big part of my lifestyle. But it's such a positive space to work in, and that the people you meet, the organisations that you work with, it is people are generally or absolutely positive about what we're working towards. And the people that we have on our team, it just attracts such talented, positive, purposeful people. So it's a cool place to be in. Yeah,
and you're certainly in a very cool city for that.
That's right. And what a great base, I suppose, to work from. And that's brilliant for us in our company, and that I guess the environment we're working in is so open to what we're trying to produce, whether that be at the consumer level and people wanting to participate in these things, or whether it's stakeholders and government, and certainly brands and organisations, they want to get involved in sport. It's not a hard sell in many respects. People understand it's a powerful thing. Obviously got to make it work for everyone, but it's a good place to be coming from. Yeah.
How does it compare to, for instance, the UK or even home in New Zealand? Or
I think being in Melbourne, I think in Australia, I think it's the same but different. I think we find with the UK that there's so many common trends and themes and at that consumer level about why people participate in sport and why they don't. Certainly, motivations for brands are very much the same. I think we can see the UK's a little bit ahead in some respects in terms of trends and what brands are looking to do and how they're engaging with their audiences. But that's a pretty general statement. There's a lot of Australian companies that are leading the way on that as well. And New Zealand the same, really. I think we do a lot of work in New Zealand and in all parts of Australia and the UK and around the world, and there's a lot of commonality, isn't there, I suppose, within sport.
Seems to be. A lot of rivalry, at least.
A lot of rivalry, yeah, and I suppose there's sort of local differences in the way things are done, which is great to be able to play on those things as well. Different flavours and different approaches to sport in different regions, which is cool and great. Gives us lots of opportunities to sort of tap into that diversity. But there's also this great common sort of thread, I suppose, running through sport, which is I want to say it's a universal language, but it's a great thing to be able to talk to people, whether it's in Dubai or Manchester or Auckland or anywhere that there's that connection that's there already. So
yeah.
And more specifically, Andrew, looking through your glittering bio, there are a couple of things that jump out, but particularly the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
Now you're the venue operations manager there.
Yeah.
What exactly is it like to work at the Commonwealth Games? It's such a big sporting event such as that.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. It's been a real highlight. It was a real highlight for me. I think mainly due to the fact that it brought together such talented people across the industry to work alongside and connect with. And it's 10 years ago now, but certainly the relationships I have from that particular job remain today, and we've all dispersed and infiltrated all other parts of the industry. And different parts of the world, and I think my team started with a team of about 3 of us, and our team at the end there was something like 150 of core staff just on the venue we worked on. I think the games team was about 1,000, plus of course the 20,000 volunteers and probably equal number of contractors and people contributing. So you have that massive team that comes together of really talented people towards a common goal. It's a pretty cool thing to be part of.
Now, in that role, is it just more so a broad overview of the operation itself, or were there specific sports or areas within sports that you were particularly looking after?
Yeah, how it worked is it was probably about a 2-year role for me. So initially you were looking at a cluster of venues and looking at how they would operate at games time. And then as things progressed and you built your teams, you started to focus in on a particular venue. So I looked after MSAC, the Sports and Aquatic Centre, so that was a really fantastic opportunity with the swimming and the profile that it has, all the aquatic sports. We had table tennis and squash and a few of the road events that came through that precinct. So it was a pretty awesome a team to work on, and it was a very holistic role, and that the purpose of the role was to pull together the various elements of delivering the games, whether that's the actual sport itself, the security, the broadcast, the volunteers, the media function. So it gave me a great opportunity to work with people across all those areas, and create a pretty cool experience for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And any particular moments that are memorable from the event itself?
I think we had the chance to meet some royalty. The Queen attended on the first day, which was obviously great recognition of the profile of the Commonwealth Games, but that venue. I think I sat and watched the diving with Prince Andrew, I think it was at the time. So I think they're quite unique opportunities that you don't get in other parts of your life. But in all honesty, really just the bunch of people that I work with, I think there's probably lots of moments in that establishing those relationships, and some people that have worked for us at Limelight since then, and certainly people that I talk to on a very regular basis. So that was probably the real highlight looking back. Yeah.
We've obviously just had the Rio Olympics, and how do you feel about the sort of health of those types of competitions, the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games? Do you think that they're still as relevant as they were, 20 years ago, 40 years ago? It's
a very good question, isn't it? I think from a personal perspective, I think the relevance has certainly changed, but the world's changed in so many ways, hasn't it? I think the relevance of the Olympics is different to that of the Commonwealth Games, and any major event, probably the perspective that it offers, or what it offers to the world, is changing all the time. So I think, to answer your question, I think the Olympics has become something quite unwieldy, and I think it serves a purpose in the world. Commonwealth Games, I think, has become something different to what it was even in Melbourne 10 years ago, and I'm sure the games on the Gold Coast will be quite different in terms of the way that they're rolled out as well. I think we're seeing immense change in that top end of sport, which is quite a hot topic, I guess, and certainly something we've got a lot of opinions on, but that's a whole different proposition in business now, isn't it?
What do you think the What do you think the purpose, now, of the Olympic Games is, or its most valuable contribution?
Yeah, I think for me, and I think for us, in terms of our business, I think it does offer this aspirational, this pinnacle of sport. I think a lot of us are motivated in sport, or inspired in sport by those people that achieve to that level and commit to that level, and the fact that it offers pathways for people to aspire to, and even to be proud about, in terms of seeing your representatives, your nation performing at that level. I think it certainly provides a great role in that. How it goes about doing that, and I guess the expense of it, and the risks associated with it, and what have you, it's a big debate in itself, I suppose. But I certainly think it's fantastic for sport to have such a showpiece that not many other industries, if you like, or aspects of society can sort of have a lay claim to. So,
Andrew, on that point of it being the pinnacle, this is something that gets me sometimes. We regularly discuss sports like soccer. Now, I love the sport of soccer, don't get me wrong, but as soccer, tennis, golf, their inclusion in Olympic Games for the exclusion of lesser known sports. When we're talking the pinnacle of certain sports, why do these really renowned sporting organisations or codes get involved in the Olympic Games? What's in it for them?
Well, I think it naturally comes back to the commerce, the commercial aspects of things, doesn't it? I think that to my mind would be the ultimate driver, and maybe not necessarily just about the dollars, but it's certainly about profile and the kudos around and how that filters through sports organisations and what it offers to sports. I've no doubt that's the driver behind it. which is not necessarily a bad thing. If it helps a sport grow, and commerce isn't necessarily a bad thing, and aspiration certainly not. So if it works for those sports, then and that's the question, I suppose, that if it works for those sports. And I guess where are the priorities from a sporting community, if you like, and the Olympic Committee in terms of which sports are best served to be in the Olympics. There's lots of good debates about that one, though, isn't there? So.
Yeah, absolutely. There's many talking points. It'll be interesting to see where it does go, and how the longevity of the concept going forward, for sure. Let's move on. You have a blog.
Yes.
Which you sent me a few links to yesterday.
Yes,
I had to read through.
yeah.
Very interesting stuff. You can feel free to give it a plug for our listeners out there.
Yeah.
I read a quote on the site. I'm passionate about seeing more people more active. Now, very powerful.
Yeah.
I suppose everyone in the world would agree with that. How do you even go about starting to make a difference? Obviously, you're with a company here where you've got a great starting point.
Yeah.
But how do you achieve something, or how do you even set out to begin to achieve something like that?
Yeah, look, great questions. I think there's a lot of people who understand the value of sport and being physically active in the world, but there's a lot of people who may not, or deny that, or I guess it's just not a priority for them. So there's different approaches, I guess, isn't there, to how we encourage certain behaviour and attitudes towards being physically active in sport. We are very fortunate, as I talked about, that a lot of people are motivated to consume, if you like, sport and be involved in sport, and it's not a hard sell for a lot of people. So for those groups of people or segments of our community, it's about providing inspiring, innovative campaigns that they can connect with and be involved with. I think there's other parts of the community which have different barriers and different motivations, so we need to understand what they are, and whether that's time, cost, access to facilities, motivation, skills, the fear factor, all these things that we understand that people have. So I guess to answer your question, we need to approach things in different ways for different parts of the community. We need to keep those people who are active motivated and more active and inspired to be active, but we also need to inspire those people that aren't and eliminate those reasons why they're not active.
Is there a particular part of the community who you're ideally focusing on? Is it the youth or anyone in particular?
I think for me, the youth is important. I think we can see that if we can change youth and their behaviours and attitudes, then we're changing the future. So I think it's a good place to start. We know that youth influence trends, and obviously smart organisations and brands target youth because they know that's they're a group of people that set trends, and hopefully us adults and oldies will listen to them and follow those trends. But and obviously, therefore, the length of impact is longer if we can change that part of our community and their attitude towards being active. But there's obviously there's a number of different groups and parts to our community which we'd like to focus on and do focus on to create a more active world. Yeah.
Sorry, where can we find this blog?
The blog. So my blog's. If you can jump on the Limelight Sports website, we have an articles page, and I've set up a blog at activeworld.online. So if you jump on that, it's just a collection of, I suppose, my thoughts and what I think are some good examples of our organisation and other organisations offering great campaigns to inspire people to be more active. So jump on. Hopefully you find something interesting in it.
Stuff.
In terms of where sport, the role that especially elite sport plays in all of that, because one of my favourite quotes I've heard is, sport is for people who are smart enough, who know the rules, and dumb enough to think it matters.
Yeah.
And we're all dumb enough to think it matters at times. But like, do you think that this sort of driving people to be active, it's obviously a critical value that visible sport has. Is that the main game? Is that the main thing out of sport? Or what else is there, do you think, that makes it such a valuable social product, I suppose?
Yeah, look, again, a great question. I think it's it's multifaceted, isn't it? The value of sport and the power of sport. And we talk about this a lot, but I think that those fundamental needs we have as humans about being fit and healthy and for well-being physically and mentally, I think that's what active sport provides. I think that's a brilliant foundation and a great core purpose, I suppose, to work from. But also there are all those other layers of bringing together communities and connecting people socially. There's economic benefits of sport, and that it's it certainly provides a massive asset to our economy. It's employing a lot of people. It provides great education opportunities for all of us. So I think that as a bit of a catch-all, but I think that the power of sport is that it's so multifaceted. In terms of those fundamental things we need as humans, but it's got these different layers. It should be fun, should be enjoyable. It should bring people together, and usually does. So I think that's something we shouldn't lose sight of, and that's why we are so excited about remaining excited about the active world and that community level of sport, because it's fundamentally very powerful and a very positive thing. And I don't think anything's going to change that, and there's always going to be a need for that. I think elite sport offers brilliant positive outcomes and connects completely with active sport, but maybe not completely all the time.
Yeah. You mentioned there that it should be fun.
Yep.
Do you have an opinion or thoughts on sort of the opposite end from the elite stuff to things like the physical education and how kids are introduced to sport and the sort of relationship that they develop with sport when they're young? Because I certainly know, like we, for instance, all the social stuff you're saying, we've become very good mates because we played at the same footy club. We went to the same school, knew each other, became mates because we played together. But I know growing up, there were people who, they love PE or this or that, and then they'll play sport afterwards, and then there were people who hated it and forget their sports clothes at home and things like that. Like, what do you think about the sort of systems that are used for introducing people to it, and do you think that it could be improved in terms of making it not as daunting for some?
Yeah, I think everything can be improved. I think there's a lot of great programs being conducted by sporting bodies, which are very well set up to attract youth or other people of other ages and demographics and ethnicities, and I think so. There's some great programs which are set up. I think we need to develop those programs and campaigns a lot more. Obviously, some of those programs speak well to, as you say, certain types of people. So, using children as an example, I guess you will have kids who are naturally attracted to sport and certain types of sports. So, I think we're catering for them, generally speaking, quite well. I think there's other children that might not be quite as engaged or connected, or even have access to those sporting programs. So we certainly need to adapt those programs and look to what they're after. I don't know if you speak from personal experience. I think we've all experienced. There's been sports that we've been very comfortable with. It's always interesting to put yourself out of your comfort zone and go and do something that you're not so comfortable with, and you go through those same fears that people go through when they're approaching something new, and it's good to remember that sometimes there's that fear factor or the questions of how do I get involved in the sport, who do I contact, what do I wear, what do I do when I get there, am I going to look stupid? There are the things that a lot of people go through across all sports, or just a general opinion. Yeah. So it's a different approach to different people, isn't it? I think for different groups and different campaigns need that, but we need to look at different ways of service provision, if you like, and creating campaigns that look at things differently.
Yeah, I think that raises an interesting point in terms of, because as you mentioned before, some of the stuff you do is about small group engagement, some of it is about mass engagement.
Yeah. And
talking about people's aversion to different sports and stuff, like how do you feel about competition and the role competition has? Because obviously, watching high-level sport, when the stakes are the highest, that's when people love it the most. But then again, when you're at a younger age, that competition can really be something that stops people from trying different things. So, if you're 4 foot tall, you're probably not as likely to pursue a basketball hobby or career as if you're really tall and things like that. So how do you feel competition can be balanced between having the benefits of people being able to enjoy it without it sort of scaring people away?
Yeah, I like to sort of frame it more as there should be a channel of aspiration, and I think that I certainly believe that people like to progress and have a sense of purpose about things, some more than others. So I think it's the way you frame up that challenge, and whether competition and a formal competition is right for some people, and it absolutely is, and I think we shouldn't shy away from that, and that should be promoted. I think we also need to be mindful that puts some people off at all ages. So I think we need to, design these programs, these sports, the formats, so that they offer that aspiration, and it's be seen as a positive thing, something people want to aspire to and be involved with, rather than that's too competitive or hard-edged for me. So I don't think we should shy away from competition with children and youth and different programs, but it's not right for everyone. I think we've got to understand that and admit that. At a mass participation level, a 5k run might be the equivalent of a marathon for someone. They might not be competing to hit a certain time, but they're there to achieve something. So I think it's the way we frame it up and position it that's appropriate for them. We don't want to shy away from challenging people, but it's how you present it.
Yeah.
I think a 1k run would be a marathon for us.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, well, let's change the tune and let's introduce our segment, which is currently unnamed, but we'll
like everything else. Yeah,
it's good.
We'll come up with one in coming shows for sure. What we're attempting to do here, Andrew, is just a few quirky questions, a few intricate details about our guests. So
they're not that quirky.
Sounds good.
We'd like to think that.
Yeah.
A few short, sharp questions.
Yeah.
Let's see how we go. Your exercise of choice? Running, swimming, or another?
Cycling at the moment. Yeah, road cycling at the moment. Does change, but that's right. I get my miles in and manage to catch up with a lot of my friends these days. So yeah.
Do you ride to work?
I ride to work. I do ride to work, and I ride on the weekends and whenever I can, really.
Which is your chariot hanging in
I think there's a couple of bikes down there of mine actually. There's a mountain bike and there's a Focus Zelco as well, a road bike, probably sitting down there at the moment. Yeah. So.
How about you, Min? What's your exercise of choice? Working the thumbs over on FIFA 17?
It certainly used to be.
Don't lie to the people. Andrew, a particular skill you wish you had that you simply don't?
Oh, I'd love to be a brilliant guitarist. I think that's always a good crowd pleaser. Yeah, but I'm not. Yeah.
Did you ever give it a crack?
I've got a guitar at home. I've been playing it for about the last 20 years, about once every 2 years.
But you're still not a guitarist.
I'm still not a guitarist. That would be a bold claim. Yeah.
What would you, if you could play one tune to some adoring fans, what would it be?
Oh, I'd probably have to pull out some Kiwi classic, I suppose, to keep the credit. Some sort of Dave Dobbin, Slice of Heaven or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be a request pretty quickly.
I'll request that.
Yeah.
Any daily routines?
Daily routines at the moment. I'd love to say I get up and exercise and play my day and do all the right things. We've got a couple of young boys, Jack and Ollie, who are awesome, and they sort of get me out of bed, and that sort of dominates the first couple of hours of my day, which is great. So I suppose that's the first thing of the day, and then I try and make sure I have built in exercise each day. I do genuinely believe it's a good thing, certainly for me, and certainly. A lot of work, but it's a good space to be in. So yeah.
Any favourite quotes?
Favourite quotes?
That's a tough question.
That's a tough question on
Very
the spot.
tough
You
question.
haven't given me any.
This is trying to get the real.
That's right. That's right.
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. I've seen a few good ones lately as well.
If they come to mind, feel free to slip
You
it
just
in.
read out the quoting Andrew from before.
That is true.
I'll send it through later. Yeah, I think a very simple one that comes to mind is if nothing changes, nothing changes, which is a quote that used to annoy me a little bit, but I think it's very very true. And we're talking a lot about innovation, at the moment, but always. And I think we certainly try and challenge ourselves to do things a bit differently. So, but you've got to do something about that. So,
yeah.
nothing changes. I'll see with that today.
You're talking about innovation, and one of the things from the blog, which was really obvious in terms of obviously your passion for activity and movement, but pretty clear interest in branding and storytelling, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Is that one of the main areas for potential innovation in the field of sport, or?
Yeah, it's an awesome area for progress and development. I think the way that sport is delivered is changing and certainly has changed in many respects. But we're seeing a lot of brands work with sport and connect with their audiences, with communities, with tribes, if you like, through sport and more so through active sport. It's something we're really passionate about. We've seen some leading brands that we work with do brilliant things to fulfil their objectives and by looking at sport differently. So I think it's something we're going to see a massive amount of change over the next, from now and the next 5 to 10 years. I think we'll see the delivery model, if you like to put it that way, changing significantly.
What direction do you think it's going in?
Oh, look, I think there'll be a lot of more partnership and leadership from brands in terms of that provision of sport, but more with the view around creating experiences that their audiences can connect with and engage with, and from our perspective, in an active sporting sense. So I think it's a great way for brands to communicate and connect with their audiences, and certainly, we look at the active world as sport as being a marketing channel. It's very much a multifaceted one. It's real life, but it's online. And it creates great content. So I think we will see so many more brands and organisations change the way that they connect with their audiences through sport. There'll still be, I think, a lot of partnership with sports organisations, with government, but I think we'll just see that way that people are approaching it change even more.
Do you think it'll become more genuine or more authentic, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's as we know, the organisations and the brands that are doing well in the world today need to be focusing, approaching things that way, and I think that's essential in sport. I think people will see through it if it's not, and it won't be sustainable. There'll be new ideas and gimmicks which will come in, and that's great and fine. But I think definitely that authenticity and still being true to sport, but maybe changing the way that we frame it up, like we talked about before, position it. Whether that's in terms of where it's played, how it's played, when, with who. All those things I think will change substantially.
I had one final question in our quirky segment, which I was super curious to ask. Your energy drink of choice, V or Red Bull?
Well, I'd have to go for Red Bull.
I thought you'd say that.
Didn't you walk in downstairs and see the fridge?
Oh, I did. I thought you'd say
no
that.
one else did.
Yeah.
No, the reason I wanted to ask this question, Andrew, was because of the Red Bull Wings for Life World Run,
yes,
which amongst many of the projects you've had involvement in over time.
Yeah.
Now, I'm familiar with it, but don't quite know what it's all about. What is it all about, and what's your involvement been over time? Well,
it's a good example, really. I suppose what we're talking about is that as a brand, Red Bull, and I believe the founder of Red Bull has a mission to solve spinal cord injury, or at least develop a cure for that. And that's a personal, suppose, mission that brand is connected to. But Red Bull, in many ways, have obviously identified the power of connecting with people through sport, and in different ways, and ways that people want to consume their sport, and in a very scalable way, and create great content out of that. So Wings for Life World Run is driven by that cause, but the model's quite an impressive one in that there's a simultaneous global running event happening, which is broadcast, streamed online simultaneously, which Red Bull produce and creates great content and for them. but with a novel format, and that there is no finish line, and that the finish line basically chases you down. So they've looked at running differently. So again, a good example of what we're talking about, and said how can we create a sort of a unique experience which is aligned with their brand and their brand values, and the purpose of that campaign, and it's attracting people to it, and it's working for them.
How do you think Red Bull has had such a massive sticky impact with, because they're basically synonymous with all extreme sports, any snow sports, skydiving, all that sort of stuff. People would almost naturally think of Red Bull almost before the sports themselves when you think of extreme sports. How have they managed to have such an authentic, like nobody thinks of Red Bull as the big, if it was Coca-Cola or something, it'd be different. How does it have such a good feeling about it where people associate themselves with Red Bull happily for a lot of sort of alternative sports?
Yeah, I think Red Bull's done a brilliant job of connecting with the lifestyle and promoting an attitude, I guess, in a positive attitude to life, and it's supported and enabled people to live that lifestyle. And I think it's obviously quite aspirational, and I think they've done a brilliant job of in this experience economy that we live in of offering experiences and promoting that as opposed to a product, and that's something that people can associate with and connect with. So I think they're a fascinating example of how brands are innovating and connecting with their audiences, and certainly through the active world they've seen that, and we've seen that in so many different examples. The way they're really disrupting sport in the way that it's delivered and the format of it, and creating great content out of it.
Do you think they connected with the lifestyle which sort of granted them the permission to associate themselves with these sports, or do you think they did it through their association?
It's a good question. I think they probably did a bit of both, haven't they? I think they've connected with a tribe that's there, but they're also adding value to that tribe, and that lifestyle. So I think that they haven't sort of come in and forced themselves on it. They've worked from both ways, and I think people can see that, can't they? You're making my life better. You're offering me something that I can't experience elsewhere, but not imposing themselves on it. So I think they're they're a good example of how a brand can truly connect with their audience in an authentic way, and I think we'll see a lot more brands. Well, we are seeing a lot more brands doing that.
I suppose Red Bull's an example of a product that isn't actually really linked with the sports side of things, or it's.
That's right. Yeah, I think people brands can see that sport has these diverse attributes. That you can connect with. It doesn't have to be that you're selling sporting goods. I think it's the emotions that you can connect with, that you can engage with people's lives. That's important. We're seeing a lot of financial services brands come into the sporting space, and they have been for many years, because they can see this is a great way to connect with people. It gives them good content to use. Through their channels, it's just a great way to connect with your audience, and I think that's the power of sport, the significance in our lives and in scale, but in terms of how connected we are to it. So, fantastic thing to become associated with. Yeah.
And what about looking forward for yourself, Andrew? Young family, as you mentioned. Can we expect to see you in Melbourne for the indefinite future, or what are your plans going forward? Yeah,
look, we love the lifestyle in Melbourne. Certainly home. Do spend a lot of time travelling. With over half of our events in Australia are up in Sydney and different parts of Australia. So it's a great place to work from. As you've identified earlier, I think it's a great lifestyle, and certainly a sporting hub. Works well for us as a business and as a family. But certainly we're expanding globally all the time. Just come back from London, spend a lot of time there, in Dubai. And I think we'll certainly pursue we are pursuing other markets pretty aggressively. So who knows where it might end up? But I'm happy basing ourselves in Melbourne at the moment.
Do the family get away with you when you're travelling for work, or
Yeah, sometimes we try and tie it in. We try and achieve that. We also try and build in some events and take the bike and live the lifestyle while we're away as well. So we met up with a few of the executive in Cape Town a couple of years ago, and we did the Cape Argus bike ride, and so we try and make a social element to it as well.
Wonderful city, Cape Town.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Very special place. 10 years from now, you're currently in Melbourne, happy as you said. 10 years from now, your kids will be a little older. Where exactly do you want to be? Where do you want to lead this company?
Look, I think we can see ourselves as growing globally, and we talk about ourselves as being the agency of the active world. And I think in 10 years' time, we'd certainly like to think that we've got offices and campaigns in all parts of the world. I think we know that what we work with, the space we work in, is global, and that's the direction we're taking. So if I'm sitting here in Melbourne or New York or Singapore, who knows? But I certainly can see in 10 years' time we'll have a global organisation and working with people in different markets.
Be sure to keep us posted if it's States focused. We big fans of the US.
I saw your eyes light up there, so no doubt we'll be keeping in touch. And maybe Cape Town as well is on the agenda.
Oh, absolutely.
We can be in both.
That's right. You're adaptable. Good.
It's been amazing gaining this perspective on the sporting world, something that most wouldn't be used to hearing. So we really appreciate the insight, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much. Likewise, it'd be great to chat to you guys and wish you well with all your ventures.
Well, it certainly was a pleasure to catch up with Andrew. Very interesting, as I assured you off the top, and he certainly delivered. If you'd like to contact him, his blog is themovement.global, so you can keep up to date with everything he's up to there. Of course, check them out online. Check out Limelight Sports website for all the latest, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2017.